go.
A place to be transparent, connect with the untold story, and grow from just a Sunday morning. Welcome to Angle's podcast with Santi and Steph. Welcome to Angle's podcast. We have a very, very special woman here with us today. Santi will be back next week. I have the co-host from the Brave Girl podcast. Did I say it right?
Yes, you got it perfect.
Okay, perfectly. Welcome, Alexis. Thank you so much for being with us.
Of course.
Alexis is a very sweet woman that I met not too long ago. I met her at a life group from Revive. She is a youth leader or pastor?
Leader.
Yes. She's a youth leader at Revive Church. And the first time I met this girl, I heard a little bit about her story. And I thought it was very amazing. So I finally got to have like a really good conversation with her over the phone. And I definitely said I need to have this girl in our podcast because her story, I'm sure all of us can relate with it. And I know it'll impact not only my life, but your life as well. So Alexis, thank you so much for being with us here today.
Of course, yes.
I don't know why I'm nervous with you.
No, like I am so happy to be here. Ever since I met Stephanie, I saw her. I'm like, this girl is gorgeous. Okay,
Aww.
Number one, she is so pretty, but she has such a spirit that's so like welcoming and nice and sweet. And I'm like,
Thank
I had
you.
no idea that she did a podcast. And when she reached out to me, and I was like, of course, say less. I would love to. So I'm just so honored and blessed to be here with you today.
Thank you so much, Alexis. And I forgot to mention, but Alexis is majoring in psychology. And I know one of her ultimate goals is to have her clinical practice specifically for young guys and girls, young boys and girls who struggle with mental health, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So I want to start off by you telling us a little bit about your podcast.
Yes, I would love to. So I'm a co-host of the Brave Girls podcast. My other co-host is Michaela Nemhard. She is absolutely the best. Crazy thing is that she's actually from Canada. So we've never actually met in person. So it's crazy to say. It's a perfect example that it is possible to have friendship literally in a whole different other place on the earth, right? And yeah, I actually got offered this position by my pastor from Revive. And at first, I'm more of like an introverted child. Like I'm more reserved. I keep to myself. So when she first told me, I was like, oh my gosh, is this happening? But the crazy thing is, I remember 2-3 days beforehand, I was praying to God. I was like, God, please open a door where you want me to be in your ministry. Mm-hmm. And then I got this opportunity, this call, and I was like, okay, this is not a coincidence. You know, this is happening. And this organization is amazing. I love it because it helps prevent human trafficking as well as exploitation, you know?
Wow.
And it's a platform to support other women. And I'm just like, yes, women power. We need more of that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I was just so like honored and blessed that God even like he chose me to speak to anyone who's listening out there that feels like, alone, that feels not seen, who feels not heard. And for me to it doesn't matter if it just one person is listening, that's all that matters in my heart,
Exactly.
As long as they feel just loved and beautiful and worthy. And I'm just so happy to have this conversation with you.
Thank you, Alexis. That's amazing. I think definitely I agree with girl unity is very important, especially because I think we take a big role in society, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also because as women, I think we have this more sense of being more emotional, sensitive, and we tend to be more targeted, right? Is it targeted? Is that a good word?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So definitely talking about this, I would love for you to bring on your story as a woman. So we're going to talk about mental health, and it's an honor to have you here because we know it's not an easy topic, right? So Alexis is going to share her story of what she went through with mental health, and definitely whatever you feel transparent to being with.
Yes, of course.
Please.
I literally told Stephanie, I was like, I'm an open book. I truly am. And yeah, I would love to talk about it. So growing up, I grew up in a very small town, Blythe, California. Very, very small, no mall. I
Wow.
know it's sad. We had to like drive like an hour, 30 minutes in order to go to a movie theater, like which was Palm Springs
Really?
and Coachella and stuff like that. Yeah, so I grew up in a super small town, mainly farmland. It's like completely desert. But yeah, I moved there when I was like 4 or 5 years old. And at that time, my parents actually got a divorce. So I grew up with them totally separate. And yeah, it was hard. Like as a kid, you don't understand. You're like, what's going on? And
Mhm.
it makes you upset. You're like, oh, is there anything I could do to help, like, have this like marriage like recollide again? But
Yeah.
of course, as a kid, like you don't understand. And both of my parents are super, super hardworking people. And at that time, I was a little girl, I was probably like 6 or 7, and my mom was constantly at work. So I have a 7 year old older brother,
Mhm.
and he was like in the house most of the time with me. And the thing was, he always used to be very verbally like mean to me. Just used to
Mhm.
have like, I understand now that I'm older, but
Yeah.
as a kid, I didn't understand why he was so angry with me. I was like, why is he like saying these horrible, things to me? But it made sense. It's he had a lot of anger in him, and I
Yeah.
was kind of like the trash can, I was kind of like
Wow.
someone who he just put all his garbage in. And as a kid, I'm like, wait, what's going on? He used to call me like things like, I'm so fat, I'm so ugly, like nobody would like ever want you.
Wow.
Like you're not all there in the head. And I was just like, I believed it
Your brother would say
completely.
that to you.
Yeah, to me, and I
Wow.
completely believed it like wholeheartedly. I was just like, if someone I love, especially a brother, is telling me this, then it must be true.
What makes you
So
think that like other people wouldn't think that about you, right? Like
yeah,
I'm sure you would think stuff like that.
exactly. So I was like, if someone said this to me at such an early age, I feel like as kids, our minds are like a sponge.
Yeah.
We kind of absorb everything that's kind of like spoken into us. And it's sad. So I believe that my whole entire life. And for some reason, I carry just so much like guilt and shame. And I felt like everything was my fault. So I grew up with that. And I remember in middle school and high school, that's when kind of it hit more at home at me, like specifically like depression and anxiety. Like at that time, I didn't know what it was, but I was just like constantly in just a really sad, you know, place. And especially where I lived, there wasn't that much kind of like support. And the church my mom is actually a pastor, and our congregation was Spanish speaking, and it was really small, like very homey. But the thing was, like, I had Bible studies como doñas and stuff like that. So I was the only girl my age and stuff
Older
like that.
woman.
Yeah, older
Yeah.
women, and but they're like powerful women in Christ, which was amazing. I learned a lot
Yeah.
from it, but I didn't have like people my age that were going through the same like spiritual journey, and it was kind of rocky and kind of lonely at times.
And people that can relate to you, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. People who could relate to me and say, you know what, like this is something that I'm going through, or I'm here for you, I'm praying for you. I never really had that. So I grew up in this atmosphere where I was just in my room and isolated completely. And that's when things got completely like in a really, really dark place. I think with depression, your negative thoughts become your reality,
Yeah.
and you just believe all that to be true. And my kind of like my lens were completely distorted because I thought that I was all those things my brother said I was as a kid. So I used to think like,
Wow.
um, I used to go outside or something like really small. I used to go outside and be
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, I'm super ugly." Like I
Yeah.
I used to my hair was like before like a shelter for me. I had really long hair, and
Aw.
they used to put it like right on my face, like kind of like to
Wow.
hide myself because I was just really like insecure of myself. I was very like self-conscious of how I looked and how, I thought people perceived me as.
And if I see you right now, I would not think that, you know? Like you're
Oh,
such a
yeah.
beautiful woman and you look very confident. Well, you bring yourself very friendly, very loving, and so secure.
Oh,
Like I
thank you,
wouldn't
girl.
think that, you know?
Thank you, thank you. It's crazy because I for a lot of years I kind of like faked a smile, and I everything was an internal battle. You know what I
Wow.
mean? And I used to think nobody cared for me, and like why would they? And all these things. So I was really good at faking a smile. Maybe, some listeners out there, maybe yourself too, like have related that in some way, of
Oh yeah, definitely.
especially at church or something like that.
Yeah, like you bring on this smile to people, this joy, this confidence, but then you come back home and you battle, you
Mm,
battle insecurity. Even now, Alexis, like that I do this podcast. I'm married, I prayed for the love of my life. I have him. I can tell you I sometimes still fight insecurity,
mm,
right? I still fight over like, am I worthy enough? What's my purpose? Where do I belong?
mm,
I think this past seasons I felt very lost sometimes. Like, what's my purpose? What am I supposed to do? I
mm,
graduated from school. I have my bachelor's. Like,
yeah.
now where do I belong? Stuff like that.
Mm,
Or even like when you're on social media and you see other women, like, I wish I had her abs. I wish I had
yes.
her waist.
Yeah,
Like
comparison. Yeah, for
comparison.
sure.
Yeah. So all those stuff definitely.
I remember me and Stephanie were talking the other day and we related this to like, oh my God, girl, like, yes, I went through that too. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Cause like, we are talking about how I remember in high school, I used to be like so mean to myself, y'all. Like, I used to like literally look in the mirror and be like, oh my God, nitpick every single like imperfection of
Yeah.
myself and like, oh, you're not, that's ugly. Like, this isn't this, you have too much this. And for
Yeah.
some reason, I don't know why in my head this made sense. I was like, okay, once I'm skinny, y'all, it's over for everyone. Like, no, not even like that.
Come
Like,
through.
yeah, come through. Like, I used to think that, like, oh, once I'm skinny enough, once I have like no acne, like
Like a
once,
list,
yeah,
right?
like a whole list, then
Yeah.
I'll be happy. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Then I'll be happy. And that's like the biggest lie of all
Yeah,
time, for sure.
definitely.
And, we're relating to this. And I was just like, man, like, I feel like once I even had all, like, girl, I'm not skinny, but but I'm saying like once I had like that reality check of like, even if you have all those things, even if you have what you desire the most, in reality it's just temporary happiness.
Yeah.
It's not constant. And I love, like, I always say this because I hold it dearly in my heart.
Uh-huh.
I always say that literally, joy is constant and happiness is temporary. And we get our joy
Oh,
from
that's
God.
so true.
You know what I mean? We
Yes.
get our joy, like, even in through the storm, even through really hard times in our lives, we get,
Two
that,
big different definitions, right?
yeah,
That's so true.
exactly.
Yeah.
And last year, I used to think high school was like my lowest point in my life, and then college happened, you guys. College happened, and I don't think people talk about it enough how lonely you are in college.
You know what? You're right.
You
You're
know?
very right. You can be so lonely in college, which
Yeah.
you should definitely go into that.
Dude, yeah, because I remember I'm pretty sure you guys have seen like movies and stuff like, oh my God, so much fun, partying, people, friends, and then
Yeah.
I used to see that growing up and I'm like, I cannot wait to college. High school sucked, but college is gonna be a whole different other level,
Yeah.
And then I get into college and I'm just like, like
Yeah.
it's crazy because I've never felt so lonely surrounded by so many people. Y-
That's insane.
and
The way you said it, I mean, that's so true. Sometimes you can feel so lonely
mm,
and you have a lot of people around you, even celebrities, like for
yes.
example, Justin Bieber, when he went through
Mm.
like the not going to his finishing the Purpose tour,
Oh yeah, I
right?
remember that, yeah.
That's one big example too.
Mm.
But anyways, continue. I'm sorry. I
No,
cut you off.
yeah, that's really true. Like, I feel like even though you can be constantly surrounded by people, that doesn't mean you're vulnerable and you don't open up to them.
Mhm.
I think that's huge. And last year, it's during this time, I'm just like, thank you, Jesus, that I'm not there anymore. But last year, I was like in college, COVID happened, and I was in a very, I think, just the lowest point in my life and my
Just last
depression.
year?
Yeah, just last year, like
Wow.
during this time too. And I was in the lowest point in my life. I remember just feeling so hopeless, and I was just in my room, and I honestly had just really negative thoughts. I always used to think that I was like a waste of air, of space, of
Wow.
people's time. I felt this huge burden.
And this just came out of nowhere or
Yeah,
something triggered it?
I think it was just I used to think I was depressed in high school because it was high school. And then I
Oh, I
realized that
see.
it was a cycle for me. It wasn't
You
something
would
that,
always have something, and,
yeah,
I
yeah,
can relate to that.
something that just
Yeah,
disappeared.
yeah.
And that was something that I was like, man, why can't you just stay in high school? Like just stay there. You weren't invited.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think something that did trigger it for me, I was completely God was right here with his arms open. I was like, like I ran the other way.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to do anything with God. Like I I really don't. And for me, a huge person that represents the love of God is my mom. And I
Oh.
remember at that time, I completely shut her off. I remember my saying was like, I'm gonna do me, girl. Like, I'm gonna do whatever I want. I'm gonna live my life. I always used to say that. Like, I don't
Yeah.
even know. I
And
used
this
to,
was just last year, you
this
said?
is just
That's
last year,
insane.
girl. This is, something that was fairly recent. I was just
Wow.
like, I'm gonna do me. Like, I don't need God.
Yeah.
And I completely pushed, people from church away, my mom, and the person that I had a roommate and she was kind of like in a similar situation where she grew up in church as well. And I think she just wanted to kind of get away with it,
Mhm.
get away from it and kind of find her own, place. It makes complete sense. And I was in a place where my heart was very vulnerable in which
Mhm.
I didn't know who I was. And I went with the flow. And that's a very dangerous place to be because I grew up in church and I was very much like sheltered, very much and I think in a good way, naive, I think it could be a good and bad thing because you have
Yeah.
good intentions and genuine intentions, but you just don't know the other intentions of the other person.
Yeah. And I remember you told me you wanted to try what it was with like what to be without God, right? Or am I
Yes.
saying it wrong?
No, yeah, yeah,
Yeah?
yeah, exactly. Like I I wanted to be like I wanted to do my own thing. Like, I never got like I grew up in church, yes, but I never had a relationship with him
Yeah.
ever. And I think you could even relate to this
Yeah,
too, right? Because you
yeah,
grew
I
up in
told you
church.
about it. Yeah, I grew up in church and I feel like I really met there's a difference between knowing God and having a relationship with God, right? So it's like I can see Alexis at Life Group. I know her, but now having a relationship with her, I really get to know who she is, how she is when we go out hiking, how she is when we go out and get coffee,
Mm.
you know? I can see her at different versions of our relationship. And that's the same thing with God.
Yeah.
Once you open yourself to having a relationship with God, you really get to see the other side of God, of
That's so good.
Jesus.
I love that, like, visual, like, literally picturing it. Like,
Yeah,
I'm a huge visual person too,
me
so
too.
I love that you actually put that in a picture because it's true. I used to think going to church every Sunday and just, like, being with people meant that you loved God. You could
Yeah.
love God, but, it's a whole different thing when you have a relationship with God. And last year during this time, I was looking for validations everywhere else but God. So I was
Wow.
looking it through, like, um, I don't know, going out. I was looking at through validation through people. And it's crazy because this goes back like in high school, right? Like I
Mhm.
used to think like, oh, once I have all these things, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
And once I decided to do my own thing without God, that's when things got even darker. There's temporary happiness, sure. But when I
Mhm.
was alone with my thoughts, that's when it got like the heaviest.
And you
That's when
realized.
yeah, the realization, I think I came to the point last year, I think it was, December, um, I was literally in antidepressants and I've
Wow.
never yeah, it got that bad. I went to see a therapist, a psychologist, psychiatrist, and I never thought that I would be there in my life, and I felt so hopeless. I felt so, so hopeless.
Mhm.
I really didn't think there was gonna be a way out, and, um, you know like that December, I remember just it was a specific night.
Mhm.
It was a specific night. I was just in bed and I was crying and crying and crying. And I just thinking to myself, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't want to live. I only saw a glimpse of the world. Like, I didn't experience it in full effect, but I only saw a glimpse of the world and it was just so empty. You know what I mean? It's
Wow.
like a magic trick in which the magician shows you all the glamour and all the
Yeah.
amazingness, but behind the scenes, like, you don't know what he has, you
I
don't know
love
what's
that.
up his sleeve. And I feel like that's kind of the enemy. Like, that's the way he kind of shows it to you
Yeah.
once like it seems like this amazing place and this amazing thing. And once you're there, you're just like, dang, this is empty. This has no
Yeah.
fulfillment to the void that's in your heart. And
Yeah.
yeah, so at that time, I got at that time, one of my really close friends, she left. And that really like hurt me, that she's been
Wow.
friends for years, and that broke my heart. And, as
Wow.
well, like I remember, I was dating this person. Oh, it was only short term, like 2 months, but that also broke my heart. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And it was
definitely.
just a short span of everything coming
It's
down.
like God showed you, like, look, you can have this is this and this, and
Mm,
you're still broken
yes,
cup.
exactly. That's literally
Yeah.
what I was gonna say. That's so good. I think God showed me. Even the thing is that I was very hard-headed, and I was
Uh-huh.
very prideful at that time, and I had to trip myself. I basically put myself in that position because I
Yeah.
used to think God was like this person that had rules and was this boss, like, "You can't do this and you can't do that." Um, but in reality, God has the structure to protect you, to
Yeah.
love you, and, I didn't understand that until, I went through all those mistakes.
Yeah.
I've always heard people who are older than me tell me to not, to
Yeah.
not do those things, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, you don't know because, like, you've never experienced it. I'm gonna experience it for myself."
Yeah.
You know, and
Definitely. Yeah.
and, yeah, so I went through all that stuff, and thank you, Jesus. God really showed me in that really dark place that even if you have friends, even if you have a boyfriend, even if, you know, we're weight or something like that, that doesn't mean you'll be happy. And that
That's
December
true. Something
night,
I can relate to.
yeah,
Mhm.
that December night, I gave my life to Christ.
December 9th?
Well, yeah, I
Oh,
think,
is that what
and
you
no, you
said?
know what? I think it was like New Year's. I think it
Oh,
was the
okay.
last day of December.
Okay. I was like, December 9th is when we started the podcast.
Oh, stop. I was gonna
Yeah.
say coincidence. I think not.
That's so funny.
That's so
Wow.
cool.
What's like the advice that you would give to women that are struggling with mental health? And as you guys heard, she still struggles with it. I still struggle with it. And I think it's always gonna be a battle, right?
Mm,
Whether if you want to call it mental health or obstacles. But
yes.
what's the best advice that you give to women, even men,
Mm,
that have went through this or are going through this?
yes, I love that question. I was telling Stephanie a little bit earlier too that I think sometimes we have a misconception. Like once we say yes to God and give it 100%,
Yeah.
it's just going to completely go away, depression, anxiety, and,
Yeah.
and everything. But in reality, I still struggle with it, to be real and stuff like that. I have days where I feel really low, where I wake up and I'm just like, man, like I'm just going to cry all day and be in my bed. Like it gets to those points. But the thing is, it's different now because I have God as a refuge, It's a game changer because I literally give all my worries, all my anxieties, and I
Yeah.
trust God, with everything that's going in my life. So I would just, 100% give it to God, number one, but also it's really hard to find those genuine friendships to trust on, to
Yeah.
lean on. Cause I really do believe if you trust the wrong people with stuff, you'll get hurt rather than heard, you
Yeah.
know? So I think that finding those right people in your life to actually be vulnerable, even showing you're messy, y'all. Everyone has a messy
Mhm.
spot,
Yeah, definitely.
Everyone has a messy spot. Be transparent, be real, but make sure it goes both ways and they're genuine and they want the best for you and support you.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
love that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Alexis. It was
Yes,
so
of
amazing to
course.
hear your story. And again, I believe that God one day is going to come into your life and completely show you why you went through all this. And there's always a purpose for everything. And
Yes.
I know we're going to be completely healed. And I believe that for your life, on whoever's watching behind camera. And I believe that for your life,
Mm.
obstacles are always going to still happen, always. But I know at some point you'll be free from depression, any anxiety. And I know this is a process of growing in life. And I'm
Yes.
glad you're
I
now
declare
helping.
that.
I'm glad that you're now helping women, sorry, young adults that
Mm.
also, you said something earlier. I want to be that person that I didn't have in that moment. And I think
Mm.
that's amazing.
Yes.
To close out, I want to ask you, which we ask everyone, what's your biggest prayer?
Ooh, my biggest prayer?
Uh huh.
Um, like in general in my life right now?
Yes, anything.
Ooh, let's see. Let's see. I think a biggest prayer is to finish the semester strong for school. I kind of this last year,
Uh
it
huh.
was really hard as I was sharing, and yeah, I kind of stumbled a little bit in school, but I really want to finish strong, and and to finish school because I'm first generation. Whoop,
Good
whoop, like,
girl.
yes. And it's something that, I really want to strive for
You
and I
will.
really want to do. And, you're an inspiration, girl. You graduated. It's not a hard thing. It's a hard thing. No, yeah. It is a really hard thing to do, you guys.
Yes,
So I admire anyone who's graduated,
of
man. Like,
course.
I'm like, God bless you. You did
It's
it.
difficult, but it's possible.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alexis, for being with us. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to having you, and we'll definitely put her information. Goodbye, guys.
Bye, guys.
We are so thankful to have you today and for letting us be part of your journey. Make sure to share with someone who needs to hear this.
You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube searching Ingles Podcast.
See you next week. Friends, don't forget to like and subscribe to continue sharing this mission together. See you next time.
Ryan Little.